questions? Sir.
I've got one for each of you, and Dan, hit you first. What I hear for you in the argument of expediency is not addressing the issue that John is proposing of whether or not the current state of North Carolina and the federal citizens residing in have the lawful remedy of nullification. I hear you skirting that issue in order to make your argument of expediency. Care to clarify?
I would say that that's right, Hans. I really do, because if the canoe is going down the river and you hear Niagara Falls coming up, okay, you cannot try to solve your problem with something that's going to take longer than it takes your canoe to get to the edge of the waterfall.
So by extension, if you are arguing that the lawful legal remedy is not expedient, are you arguing in favor of an unlawful revolutionary remedy?
I think that there are probably several things that we could try that are lawful. I think nullification is a lawful remedy. If our legislature in Raleigh would comply instead of playing the games that they're playing, I think we might have a chance to try and stem the tide. I firmly believe they have the legal right to nullify federal law that is unconstitutional. And furthermore, I believe, according to the original founders and the quotes from the original ratifiers, okay, that they have the right to declare law unconstitutional that does not square with the intent of the founders. Okay? So, isn't that a better remedy if it's possible?
For me personally, I'm not sure giving the usurpers the opportunity to fix things sounds right.
I understand, but you have to have some degree of practicality in terms of your actions.
Fair enough.
And that's really my point. Okay. Is we're in a canoe going over Niagara Falls. We got to do something before we go over.
Can I just address a little bit of that, and I'll come back to you.
But I want to take the practicality to my question for you.
Okay.
Go on.
The practicality. We got this limited time frame. Well, number one is I say, well, if you got the truth, you stand on the truth. If you got law on your side, you stand on the law. We've got a situation today, like I said, there's a lot of confusion out there. Is there any evidence? Let's put things on a timeline. Let's look at the direction America's going in fiscally, morally. We're losing our rights, globalization, and all this. We're on this timeline. Like I said, 23rd hour. I mean, we're going down. Okay? We have been putting our faith and efforts into that system. Voting in '94, the Republican landslide and all this. Has this decreased or increased our slide to down the waterfall? I say the quickest way down the waterfall is to stick with the people taking us down the waterfall. I'm in total opposition to this position that it's expedient and there's a ray of hope. Who feels there's a ray of hope? Show me any evidence to where there's a ray of hope from this system that's in place that they're going to finally, as a body, 51% of them, where you can vote on it, do the right thing and get America back. No, they've taken our rights away. It's up to us to stand on them. They're just going to hope we stand idly by and observe them take everything from us. This is what Patrick Henry addressed. When are we going to be stronger? When is it wrong to stand up for the truth? Let me say one thing real quick is, right now we've got a remedy to get lawful government back, and you either pick the right direction to go in, or you're going to end up not going in the right direction and having what I call the cure du jour, the cure of the day. Oh, well, like I said earlier, oh, it's the Tea Party. Oh, it's this. Or we're going to try to get this bill stopped. And it's just going to be running around, keeping busy, going in ineffective manner, where I say this is a very effective direction we can go in immediately.
I'd like to pick up on the point of practicality, my question to you. Throughout history, military conquests have taken possession of territory. You read the General Order 120 for North Carolina. taking from Governor Worth. What we have here is a situation of adverse possession under the law as I understand it. And adverse possession has had timetables. English common law, after a certain period of time, the adverse possessor has been granted the right of ownership. So how does the rightful remedy deal with the adverse possession that happened in 1868?
Latches and estoppel, right of adverse possession. The right of adverse possession deals with someone who knowingly, a classic example of this is we got some property out here. Let's say that section over there actually belongs to the neighbor, but they let Brock park his car. Brock uses that property totally as if it's his own. Okay, and nothing is said. I think it's 20 years. And after 20 years, then it becomes the property legally. Okay, we're dealing with unconstitutional acts. There is no statute of limitation on unconstitutional acts. We're dealing with conquest. Okay, and adverse possession in that manner. In conquest, and this is the beauty of our argument, most conquests are of one people going to a foreign country, Germany going into France, things of this nature. Our conquerors are people that have a sworn oath and duty to protect us. Okay? They're still swearing an oath of allegiance to that Constitution.
They didn't swear an oath to protect you, the state citizen.
That's in the original Constitution. All laws made pursuant thereof. Remember, that's the key of this discussion. And I'm saying the pivot point is we have a law not of the consent, or that is not in line with the Constitution, not made pursuant thereof, and we have legal remedy. If we're bold enough to stand up and say, you know what, I think standing on what's right and just in the law is the way to go. This argument's never going to change. I think if we put our trust in the present politicians, number one is it's unfounded trust. There's no reason to have trust. And all we're going to end up with is the cure du jour. It's going to be nullification today. You're going to find out that's not going to work. It's going to be a new argument in 2 years from now.
I hear what you're saying. I understand the arguments. My point is something that you brought up. Nullification of an unconstitutional act. Right? Let's take the case in point that I sent both of you about Kansas. Kansas has passed a law that says any law passed by the federal government against the Second Amendment will be nullified by the state of Kansas. Well, think about that. They're basically not saying we're going to nullify a law. We're going to nullify a law that violates the Constitution. That's a different aspect of what you've been discussing today. So the federal government's response to this new law in Kansas is any law passed by the federal government must be followed, and if you do not follow it, based on your law, it's unconstitutional. You will follow the federal law. They're taking it to a whole new level. They now are saying that they will pass laws against the Constitution, and you will follow it because of the Constitution. Can you both address that? Oh, good.
Yeah,
first.
Eric Holder just sent him a letter saying
That's what I said. That's right. Eric Holder sent the letter. So, I mean, we're going to another level in this discussion now.
Well, it really comes back to what I just said to Hans. Okay? I firmly believe that the citizens of the states and the states have the right to say no to the federal government. So once you believe that, and if you work to achieve that in your state, then you would have the right to expect your state and your state government to hold the line for you and with your consent. So, to me, if the state of Kansas says, no, we're not going to, I don't care what you say, the Second Amendment is inviolate, and in the state of Kansas, the Second Amendment still holds, okay, then it's up to the state of Kansas to actually act in that way if the federal government comes down and tries to do something different. The point is that if every state were to do that, the federal government, or if the majority of states were able to do that, the federal government would not have the ability to countermand what the states are doing. So from a practical matter, if enough states stand up and toe the line, and hold that line, then the federal government will have no option but to capitulate.
Well, let me ask the question then of you.
They could call in the UN.
You're calling you.
Seriously?
You didn't clarify what the majority state. How many states does it have to take? Are you saying 51%, 38 out of 50,
I think
supermajority?
he's saying the amount that takes to overwhelm the federal government.
I mean,
But, you know, okay.
The point is, the other side, their, if you understand Cloward Piven, their goal was to overwhelm the system so that the system would collapse. What I'm saying is, we need to use the exact same tactics on our side. We need to overwhelm the federal government by all of us saying, no we won't, no we won't, no we won't, no we won't. And if enough states are saying, no we won't, the federal government will not have the ability to put out all those little brush fires at once.
And I'm not disagreeing with you. Here's my point. What if the majority of the states, like you're saying, instead of no we won't, say yes we can? Because that's what we've got right now. So
Yeah.
where does that leave us?
Yes.
Well, let me say this: is let's say we do this with Obamacare, and let's say this plan does work, and so Obamacare is not implemented. Have we got our freedom back from the federal government?
It's already implemented.
But what I'm saying is if we're successful in this method, the state stopping it, has that changed Reconstruction? Has that changed this entire dynamic to where we're back on our foundation? The answer is no.
No, it could be.
We've still lost them. We still got the gay rights, the abortion rights, the plethora of issues that are going on that are still controversial out there.
But what I'm saying is, you have to take it one issue at a time sometimes. And if the Second Amendment issue, which I believe is the most critical issue currently in front of all of us right now, because without the Second Amendment we have zero rights of any kind, and don't have the ability to enforce it. My feeling is that we must, on a state-to-state and on an individual basis, we must stand firm for our right to keep and bear all arms, whatever we feel that we individually need. And if we all stand up that and the federal government is forced to back down, we then have the ammunition and the energy and the desire and the ability to go on to the next issue and tackle the next issue. So does that one issue give us our freedom back? No, but it gives us this much of our freedom back, so we go on and get this much of our freedom back, and then we get this much of our freedom back. That's the way I think that it has to be done.
Okay, and I would go back.
Let me jump in here. How much of your freedom do you have to lose to be free? Or let me rephrase it, how much of your slavery do you have to give away before you're free again? And that's the real question. If you're free, 5% are you free? This country was founded on George Washington's principles. They asked George Washington, why did you fight the revolution? Because he said, because even though it's a small tax, they're taxing my liberty by taking the fruits of my labor. Any portion of your freedom means the rest of it that you don't have, you're a slave. Is that what we're fighting for? I don't want to wait for that time frame. I do not. I will not.
We're right now, I see us as we're a subjugated people. We are a slave. And we're fighting for better food. As a slave. We're going to stay a slave. I want better food. I want better health care. I want better housing. I want better, okay, we're still a slave. We don't have our freedom back. And this timeline of going through this, what's the timeline of us getting our freedom back, relying on this system to do the right thing? And every people standing up for it. Look at what happened this last election. What does that tell you about the psyche of the average American right now? Is it going towards liberty, or is it going towards slavery? Let's say slavery. What's a master's duty to a slave? Provide them food, provide them clothing, provide them housing, provide them cradle-to-grave medical care. In return for, give me some of your labor, and if you can't work, I still got to take care of it. We're slaves. We've got a slave mentality. We do not have, this generation that's coming up right now, they're not a free-minded people. They are a slave mentality. All the system has to do is wait till the people here who don't have gray hair have gray hair, the ones that got gray hair are dead, and the people are going to just accept all this as it goes. We've got a duty for a timeline to stand up now. When is an unconstitutional act void? Immediately. Okay? The state of North Carolina, created by Reconstruction, was unconstitutional. When was that state void in law? When it was put into place. Void. How many people here are going to sit there and keep giving allegiance and support and begging to a void entity when you can start participating in the real entity? You know what? Because here's our plan. Our plan isn't just a legal argument. Our plan is to get people to say, you know what, I'm a state citizen. We're putting the state back in place because the federal government will never allow it. Now, people say this is crazy, and this is why I really appreciate Brock, I appreciate Dan, Dave, everyone for allowing me to come here, because what I say, most people think is too crazy. What I talk about, what we do. Look at what our founding fathers did. Separation. Willing to fight for it. Okay? What are we willing to fight for? Most people say, well, I don't want to be associated with something. You know, I don't want my reputation tarnished. Our founding fathers put their lives, liberty, property. They were looking at a noose if they lost. We are a people who have lost all of our spirit. We've lost all of our fight. And we're sitting here supinely. We would rather argue and be inactive rather than do what we know is the right thing. An unconstitutional act is void. The Reconstruction Acts violated no fewer than 7 parts of the Constitution of the United States of America. Not just 1, 7. And for us to take the position that most people feel comfortable with, and what's the position most people feel comfortable with? Let's get in that system, let's manipulate, let's make something happen. We have to accept treason. Accept treason. Right now, I'm the governor of the state of North Carolina. I was elected. There's been 4 governors of North Carolina, of the reestablished state. This one, you have to say, I believe, I accept, I willingly participate in treason. I accept it. I accept coercion as lawfully binding. I accept unconstitutional acts as being, I've got to obey them. Or you can say, you know what, this is a fraud. I'm going to go back. The reason we don't have lawful government is because the people in this room aren't participating in it. The reason we don't have lawful government is people on the streets and all these places aren't participating in it. We're having our hope in the fraud. We hope that we can change it. Show me the timeline that change through them can be effective. I say there is no hope.